Work once, serve forever. The Scalable Path to Passive Impact, written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Not maliciously, but culturally. The lie goes like this: if you're not constantly grinding, constantly producing, constantly showing up, your work doesn't matter, hustle or be irrelevant, burn out or be forgotten. But what if that's wrong? What if your most meaningful, far-reaching, and transformational work isn't what you repeat every day, but what you create once and design to last? What if the greatest gift you can offer the world is not your presence, but your architecture? This book is for builders. Not just those who build businesses or brands, but those who want to build meaning. Builders of tools. Builders of ideas. Builders of systems that outlive the energy it took to create them. Builders of work that continues to serve while they rest, create, or move on to something new. You don't need a massive platform, a tech background, or a team of engineers. You need a mindset shift. You need to stop asking, "How can I do more?" and start asking, "How can I build something that does more without me?" As motivational speaker Jim Rohn once said, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. This book is about acquiring those skills, not to work harder, but to work wiser. Not to avoid effort, but to design it so well, it keeps working in your absence. Inside these pages, you'll learn how to move from scattered effort to focused architecture. How to identify the seeds of scalable work already in your life. How to build products, frameworks, systems, and structures that serve people without demanding your constant attention. This isn't about shortcuts. It's about stewardship. Because when you design with intention, your work becomes more than a task, it becomes a legacy. So if you're tired of running in circles and ready to build something that stands, you're in the right place. Let's build the kind of work that works, long after you've moved on. Chapter 1. Digital Products, Infinite Reach. You wake up to an email. Someone in a different country just purchased a product you created months ago. You didn't hold a meeting. You didn't trade an hour for $1. You didn't even know they existed yesterday, and yet, your work helped them today. That's the quiet miracle of digital products. For years, most of us have been trained to think in terms of presence. If you want to make an impact, you have to be in the room. If you want to serve, you need to show up, again and again. The rhythm becomes predictable and exhausting. A meeting here, a client call there, another email, another deadline, all built around a single, unscalable asset, your time. But what if you could pour the best of your expertise, energy, and empathy into something once, and it keeps working long after you're gone? That's the philosophy behind passive impact. And digital products are one of the most accessible, scalable forms of that impact. And a digital product is any packaged form of knowledge, creativity, or problem-solving that can be sold or shared repeatedly without recreating it. Think courses, e-books, templates, toolkits, audio series, and apps. They're not about automation for the sake of laziness, they're about preservation. You're preserving your best thinking, packaging it clearly, and distributing it endlessly. The best part? You don't need a massive following to start. You just need a problem you've solved well, and a person who needs that solution. Start there. What do people keep asking you for help with? What have you figured out that others still struggle with? Somewhere in your story is a breakthrough that someone else is waiting for. Once you've identified the problem, think in terms of containers. Could this become a self-paced course? A short ebook? A bundle of templates? Don't aim for perfection, aim for clarity. The goal is not to impress. It's to relieve someone's pain without needing to hold their hand. Now here's where most people get stuck. They believe their value is in their presence, not their process. But presence doesn't scale. Process does. A great digital product is not a personality, it's a pathway. It walks someone from confusion to clarity, without needing you to be there. And yes, it takes effort up front. You'll wrestle with structure, you'll overthink. You'll wonder if it's good enough. But remember the tree. It takes time to plant, and even longer to grow. Still, once it's in the ground, it starts serving without asking for your constant attention. I still remember the first digital product I ever launched. It wasn't fancy. It was a PDF. But it solved a real problem. and the day I got a message from someone I'd never met saying, "This changed my approach to work," something clicked. The work I had done once was echoing, not loudly, not virally, but steadily. Quiet impact, day after day. This is the invitation, to stop seeing your work as a performance that needs your presence, and to start seeing it as a design that needs your wisdom. Build it once. Build it well, and let it walk without you. Digital products allow you to serve repeatedly without showing up repeatedly. You don't need a massive audience, just a real solution to a real problem. The goal isn't to impress, but to relieve pain and deliver clarity at scale. Where in your life have you already solved a problem that others still struggle with? List 3 questions people regularly ask you for help with. Then circle the one that has the most universal appeal. That's the seed of your first scalable product. Chapter 2. The Tree and the Tomato. Tomatoes are fast. Plant one today, and in a few weeks, you'll be slicing them for salads. Trees, though, they take patience. They ask for vision. No one plants a tree expecting a harvest next month. But give it time, and it shades generations. It produces without pushing. It stands, long after the planter is gone. Most of us have been taught to grow tomatoes. Quick wins, visible progress. Finish one thing and move on to the next. The hustle feels good. Productive, it's tangible. But it's also temporary, that's the problem. Tomato thinking traps us in cycles of constant effort. Finish one project, start another. Launch one service, pitch another. Every dollar, every impact, is tied to your presence. The tree asks a different question: can this live beyond me? That's the essence of passive impact. It's not about stepping away from work. It's about doing work that keeps serving long after your hands are off the plow. The problem is, most of us don't design for durability, we design for dopamine. We chase what gives us feedback today, not what will still matter 10 years from now. I remember a friend who built a consulting business. He was brilliant, booked out, and burned out. His income was high, but his impact was narrow. He had to be in every room to make a difference. One day he told me, "If I get sick or stop showing up, everything stops." That's when he started shifting. He took his method, documented it, turned it into a system others could follow, and trained 2 people to deliver it. Within a year, the business ran without him. He planted a tree. The shift from tomatoes to trees isn't easy. Tomatoes are tempting. They grow fast. They get likes and praise and quick returns, but they also rot fast. They demand planting again and again. Trees take longer, and their progress is invisible at first. You dig, water, and wait. But one day you come back and see roots deep in the ground and branches reaching for sky. Passive impact starts with asking better questions. Not what can I do today that pays off today, but what can I create today that still pays off when I'm not looking? You don't have to abandon tomatoes entirely, but make sure your garden has trees. This shift also reframes how we define productivity. It's not just about how much we get done today, it's about how long our work lasts. A blog post might get clicks this week. A book, if written well, might change lives for decades. One isn't better than the other, but one has roots. In a culture obsessed with urgency, it takes courage to think long-term, to plant work that doesn't feed you immediately, but when you do, you move from being a worker to a builder, from effort to architecture, from running to reigning. The tree and the tomato both require labor. But only one leaves a legacy. Tomato work gives quick returns but demands constant replanting. Tree work is slower to grow, but has a greater impact over time. Passive impact begins with designing work that outlives your presence. Which parts of your current work are tomatoes, and which ones could become trees if given structure? Identify one thing you've created that could be turned into a tree, something that could serve others repeatedly with minimal input from you. Write it down. Chapter 3. The Myth of Busy. You ask someone how they're doing, and 9 times out of 10, you'll hear it. Busy. It's become the default badge of honor, the modern proof of importance. If you're busy, you must be valuable. If you're booked, you must be doing something right. But what if busy is just noise dressed as progress? We've confused motion with meaning. We've built lives packed with effort but empty of intention. Somewhere along the way, we started equating productivity with packed calendars. But when every moment is filled, there's no space to build anything that lasts. The tyranny of busy is that it tricks you into thinking you're moving forward, even when you're spinning in place. I once worked with a leader who was drowning in meetings. He had no time to think, no time to strategize, no time to rest. "I can't stop," he told me. "Everyone needs something." But when we zoomed out, most of those needs weren't emergencies, they were expectations he had trained others to place on him. He was the bottleneck, and his busyness had become the ceiling on his organization's growth. Busy is seductive because it feels productive. But there's a difference between being in demand and being impactful. Being busy fills your day. Impact fills the world beyond your day. Passive impact requires a different pace. You can't build scalable systems in a flurry. You need margin, mental space, emotional clarity, and time to architect. And architecture takes deliberate focus, not frantic energy. Trees don't grow in hurricanes. They grow in stable seasons with deep roots. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we're just in a busy season. But for most of us, the season never ends, it's a lifestyle. And lifestyles become legacies. The question isn't whether you're getting things done. The question is whether the things you're doing are getting you where you want to go. Think about it. When was the last time your best idea came during a 12-hour sprint? Ideas need stillness. Design needs reflection, and an impact needs structure. You don't get those in back-to-back calls and endless checklists. You get them in moments of intention, space, and clarity. Shifting out of busy doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right things in the right way for the right reasons. It's not laziness, it's leadership. It's having the courage to say no to things that don't scale so you can say yes to what truly matters. Start by auditing your calendar. How many of your weekly tasks require you specifically, and how many could be delegated, automated, or deleted altogether? Then go deeper. How many of those tasks are tomato tasks, quick hits with short lifespans, and how many are tree tasks, designed to outlast you? The goal isn't an empty calendar, it's an intentional one. One that reflects your values, not just your obligations, one that frees you to build something that keeps working even when you're not. When you escape the myth of busy, you don't become idle, you become powerful. Because you've stopped chasing the next task and started designing for lasting transformation. Busyness is not a badge of honor, it's often a barrier to long-term impact. Constant activity can distract from meaningful, scalable work. True productivity is measured by what lasts, not what fills your schedule. Where are you mistaking busyness for impact in your daily life or work? Review your calendar for this week. Identify one recurring task or meeting you can delegate, reschedule, or remove to create space for tree-building work. Chapter 4. Designing for Scale. An architect doesn't build every brick. They design the system that tells the builders where the bricks go. They create the plan, and the plan creates the structure. That's the difference between effort and architecture. One depends on your hands. The other depends on your design. Most of us were never taught to design. We were taught to work. Finish the job, answer the email, take the call, show up, be reliable. And those things matter for a while. But the higher calling, the sustainable path, is to shift from doing everything to designing something that does it without you. Designing for scale means building with the future in mind. It's the decision to pause before you act, to ask not just how can I solve this, but how can I solve this once and never have to solve it again. That small change in thinking unlocks exponential results. Let's get practical. You answer the same 3 questions from clients every week. You could keep answering them live. Or you could record a 10-minute video that becomes part of your onboarding. That's scale. You're not just saving time, you're standardizing excellence. The quality of the response stays high, and your involvement becomes optional. The challenge is that designing takes more effort up front. That's why most people skip it. We're wired to solve today's problems now. But scalable thinkers are willing to do hard things now, so that they, or someone else, won't have to later. I remember a small nonprofit founder who spent hours every week writing emails to donors. Each message is heartfelt. Each one is personal. But it was draining. And worse, it kept her from building programs that would multiply her impact. We mapped out a year's worth of automated messages based on donor behavior, written in her voice, full of story and gratitude. The result? Donor engagement went up, her time freed up, and her impact doubled. That's what scale looks like. Design also invites collaboration. When you design a system, others can step in. Your vision becomes transferable. Your mission becomes shared. And suddenly you're not the only one rowing the boat. You've built a vessel that moves even when you rest. The resistance to this shift usually sounds noble, but I want to be hands-on. I don't want to lose the personal touch. These are valid concerns, but often they're rooted in control, not care. Designing for scale doesn't mean removing your heart. It means extending it. Through systems, through people. Through tools that echo your values without exhausting your energy. Begin with a simple framework. People, process, platform. Who are the people that can carry your vision? What processes can document your method? What platforms can deliver your work while you sleep? You don't need all the answers now. You just need to start thinking like an architect, not a laborer. The beauty of scale is that it gives your work a life of its own. It becomes independent, resilient, and expansive, and most importantly, it frees you to focus on the things only you can do: the vision, the innovation, the soul of the mission. Design it once. Let it serve forever. Designing for scale is about building systems, not just completing tasks. Small changes, like automating a repeated process, can multiply your impact. Scale requires thinking like an architect: people, process, and platform. Where are you doing the same work repeatedly that could be turned into a system once and for all? Choose one repeatable task you do weekly. Create a checklist, script, or template for it, then explore how you can delegate or automate it. Chapter 5. Frameworks over freelancing. Freelancing is noble work. You bring your skills to the table, solve a problem, get paid, and move on. But freelancing is also fragile. Every project has a finish line. Every dollar is tied to your time. When you stop, the work stops. The income stops. The impact stops. That's not freedom, it's dependency in disguise. Now imagine taking that same skill, that same process you repeat for every client, and turning it into a framework. A repeatable, teachable, transferable structure. Suddenly, your work becomes scalable, your ideas become assets. And your value multiplies without requiring more of you. The truth is, many freelancers are sitting on frameworks already, they just haven't named them. They've developed ways of doing things that work every time, but because it lives in their head or buried in client files, it stays hidden. That means no one else can use it, and it can't grow beyond their personal bandwidth. A framework is simply a structured approach to solving a recurring problem. It's not a rigid formula, it's a roadmap. It gives people steps, language, and clarity. Instead of saying, "I'll fix this for you," you say, "Here's how we fix this, and here's the system that makes it work." Think of it like this: freelancing is cooking each meal fresh. Frameworks are writing the recipe and letting others cook it too. Maybe they pay to license it. Maybe they pay to be trained in it, or maybe they follow it on their own. Either way, your expertise scales beyond your schedule. I once knew a designer who was drowning in client work, brilliant at what she did, but stuck in revisions and emails. When we mapped her process, we found she followed the same 6-step sequence every time. We turned it into a design framework. She gave it a name. Created a mini course, sold it as a package. Trained junior designers to use it, and just like that, her work began to multiply without her presence in every project. The mindset shift is key. Stop selling your time, start selling your thinking. Your value is not in your availability, it's in your approach. When you realize that, you move from being a vendor to being a visionary, from service provider to system creator. And frameworks build trust faster. When a client sees you have a proven process, they feel safer. When a student can follow your method and get results, they become an evangelist. Frameworks are credibility in a box. You don't need to wait until you're a guru to build one. Just ask, what problem do I solve repeatedly? What steps do I always take? What tools or principles do I rely on every time? Write them down. Name the steps. Turn them into a guide, a course, a presentation, a template. Now you've moved from freelancing to scaling. This isn't about abandoning client work. It's about elevating it. Even if you keep serving one-on-one, a framework lets you charge more, onboard faster, and deliver more consistent results. It also opens doors, partnerships, licensing deals, speaking gigs. Because now you're not just a doer, you're a thinker with a method. Frameworks don't trap you. They free you. They turn your hard-earned wisdom into lasting, teachable value. You're not just solving problems, you're creating pathways. Build the framework. Then let the framework build the future. Freelancing trades time for money. Frameworks turn ideas into scalable assets. You likely already have a framework. Your process just needs structure and a name. A strong framework builds credibility, consistency, and passive impact. What do you repeatedly do for others that could be turned into a clear, teachable process? Sketch out the 3 to 5 main steps you follow when solving a common client problem. Give your process a working title. It doesn't have to be perfect, just clear. Chapter 6. Mentorship that Ripples. A man once mentored a young woman fresh out of college. He taught her not just how to do the job, but how to lead, how to think, how to believe in herself. Years later, she became a department head and began mentoring others in the same spirit. A decade passed, and her mentees were now mentoring others. The original man had long since retired, but his fingerprints remained, through people he'd never even met. That's the power of scalable mentorship. Most people think of mentorship as a one-on-one relationship, a standing coffee meeting, a monthly check-in, and those are beautiful, but they're also limited. You can only pour into so many people directly. And when your mentorship relies on your constant presence, it stops when you stop. Passive impact in mentorship means building a model where your wisdom keeps moving, even when you're not the one delivering it. It means shifting from mentor to multiplier, from one person pouring into another, to one person designing a ripple. Start by codifying what you teach. Most of us mentor intuitively, we respond, we share, we listen. But scalable mentors document. They notice the lessons that come up again and again. They turn those into principles, stories, phrases, and frameworks. When you write it down, others can carry it forward. One leader I knew built a mentorship playbook after realizing he was repeating himself with each new team member. He wrote out the 12 key lessons he wished someone had told him earlier in his career. Then he recorded short videos on each one and created a workbook to go with them. Suddenly, mentorship wasn't bound to his availability. It was baked into the culture. Anyone in his organization could now experience his mentorship, even if they never met him. Scalable mentorship also happens when you build group formats. Instead of mentoring one person at a time, gather 5 or 10, let them learn from each other. Facilitate instead of dictate, guide the conversation, but let the room be the teacher. When you build cohorts, you build community. And community scales faster than content. Another method is the train the trainer model. Teach someone well enough that they can teach others. Equip them not just with answers, but with understanding. That's how you move from adding impact to multiplying it. The first generation learns from you. The second learns through them. The third may never know your name, but they carry your DNA. This doesn't remove the soul of mentorship. It preserves it. When you invest the time to create clear, transferable mentorship, you're not reducing your wisdom, you're extending it. You're giving it a longer shelf life, a broader reach, a deeper legacy. Think back to the people who shaped you. Maybe you had a teacher who believed in you, a coach who challenged you, a boss who took the time to listen. Their impact didn't just help you, it changed how you show up for others. That's the ripple. Now you get to be that for someone else, and more than one. You don't need a title to mentor. You just need perspective, experience, and a willingness to share. The question is, will you keep that wisdom in a one-on-one loop, or will you build a model that lets it multiply? Mentorship isn't about being impressive, it's about being intentional. Design it, document it, let it ripple. Scalable mentorship turns personal wisdom into shared systems. Documenting your lessons allows others to mentor in your voice and values. Ripple effects grow when you mentor in groups, cohorts, or train the trainer formats. What have you mentored others in informally that could be turned into a repeatable format or guide? Write down 3 lessons you consistently teach others. Choose one and draft a 1-page summary or record a short video to begin capturing your mentorship. Chapter 7. Automate with purpose. Automation gets a bad reputation. People hear the word and imagine soulless bots spitting out robotic messages, cutting corners, or replacing human connection. But when done right, automation isn't about removing heart, it's about preserving it. It's not about doing less care, it's about doing more consistently, without burning out. The truth is, you're already automating something. Maybe it's the way you respond to emails. Maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's your use of calendar invites, reminders, or saved templates. Automation isn't just about software, it's about systems. And those systems can either serve you or silently stress you. The difference lies in intention. Automating with purpose means asking, what can I delegate to a process so I can stay focused on the work only I can do? It's not about escaping responsibility. It's about designing your time around your strengths and values. I once worked with a coach who loved his clients but hated his admin work. Every new booking required 5 back-and-forth emails, payment links, reminders, reschedules. It drained him. Together, we set up a simple scheduling tool that handled everything: availability, payments, confirmations, even follow-ups. Within a week, he felt lighter. Not because he worked less, but because the right work rose to the surface. Automation is leverage. It lets you create something once and have it repeat with precision. It doesn't forget. It doesn't fatigue. It doesn't need a lunch break. That reliability frees you to be fully present where it counts most. Still, the fear is real. Will it feel impersonal? It doesn't have to. You can automate with warmth. You can write a welcome email once that feels like a hug. You can create a series of onboarding videos that feel like mentorship. The key is to inject your voice on the front end, so the system carries your personality on the back end. And here's a secret: the people you serve often appreciate it. A thoughtful automated experience is better than a rushed personal one. People don't just want access to you, they want clarity, consistency, and care. Automation, when designed well, delivers all three. Start small. Pick a friction point in your workflow. Is it appointment scheduling? Is it client onboarding? Is it collecting feedback? Choose one place where you repeat yourself often, then look for a tool or system to handle it. Write your messages with personality. Create templates with care. Think of it as your future self serving others. But don't automate blindly. Just because something can be automated doesn't mean it should. Keep the soul work human. Don't automate apologies, coaching, gratitude, or vision. Those deserve your touch. But the repetitive stuff? Free yourself. Let the process do the lifting so you can do the leading. There's a moment when you wake up and realize a part of your work has already served someone while you slept. That moment isn't lazy. It's liberating. It's a sign that you've moved from effort to intention, from chasing the urgent to designing for the important. You're not building a machine. You're building a method, one that multiplies your care, not replaces it. Purposeful automation removes friction and protects your focus. Thoughtful systems can carry your voice and values even in your absence. Automating the right tasks allows your energy to stay where it's most impactful. What recurring task in your work could be automated without losing its personal touch? Choose one task you repeat weekly, research a tool or create a template that would automate 80% of that task, and test it this week. Chapter 8. Permission to pause. In a world that rewards motion, stillness feels suspicious. If you're not moving, producing, or posting, are you even relevant? We've been conditioned to equate value with visibility. But the most powerful work often happens in the quiet, behind the scenes, beneath the surface, during the pause. Passive impact demands intentional rest, not just to recharge your energy, but to protect your vision. You can't build scalable systems when your brain is cluttered and your heart is frayed. You can't plant trees if your hands are always digging. Rest isn't an interruption to productivity, it's a prerequisite. The danger is subtle. You start with a noble ambition to serve, you give your all. And it works. People respond, momentum builds. So you keep going, but instead of building systems to sustain the growth, you just work harder. You run faster. Eventually, the work you once loved starts to feel like a burden. The tree becomes a treadmill. That's why you need a rhythm of pause. Not just when you crash, but while you're still strong. Pausing on purpose is different from collapsing in exhaustion. One is strategic. The other is survival. The pause gives you perspective. It allows you to zoom out, evaluate what's working, and refine what's next. I once spoke with a creative entrepreneur who took a full month off every year, non-negotiable. During that time, he didn't check emails, take meetings, or touch projects. At first, it felt risky. Would momentum stall? Would clients leave? Instead, the opposite happened. His systems stepped up. His clients respected him more. And each return brought a new burst of clarity and creativity. That's the paradox. Rest often amplifies results. When you step away, your systems reveal their strength, or their weakness. Either way, you learn. And when you return, you come back sharper, more focused, and more grounded in your values. But giving yourself permission to pause takes courage. You have to push against the pressure to stay visible. You have to trust that your worth isn't measured by your output. You have to believe that rest is part of the work, not separate from it. There's also a difference between rest and distraction. Distraction numbs. Rest restores. Scrolling isn't pausing. Binging doesn't build. Real rest reconnects you to yourself, to your vision, to what truly matters. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is take a walk, write in a journal, or simply be unavailable. Build rest into your systems. Schedule sabbaticals, even if they're short. Design weeks with margin. Block off creative space. Protect recovery like you protect revenue. Because they're linked. When you rest, your ideas breathe. Your strategies sharpen. Your leadership matures. The culture won't give you this permission. It will always ask for more. That's why it has to come from within. From the wisdom that knows sustainable impact isn't built on endless hustle, it's built on rhythm. You don't have to earn rest. You just have to allow it, not as an escape, but as an investment. Because when you pause, you don't lose progress, you gain perspective. And perspective is the soil where meaningful, scalable work grows. Rest isn't a reward for productivity, it's a requirement for longevity. Strategic pauses allow your systems to breathe and your vision to sharpen. You don't lose momentum when you rest, you often multiply it. Where in your life are you delaying rest, and what would it look like to build it into your rhythm? Block off one day in the next 2 weeks for intentional rest. No work, no hustle. Use it to reflect, refuel, and realign with your long-term vision. Chapter 9. Measuring Passive Impact. What gets measured gets managed, but not everything that matters can be measured the old way. Traditional metrics obsess over activity, hours worked, projects completed, emails answered, but passive impact doesn't show up on a time card. It reveals itself in echoes, subtle, steady, and powerful. If you only measure how busy you are, you'll miss how effective you've become. Passive impact isn't about what you're doing today. It's about what you've built that keeps doing even when you've stepped away. That kind of legacy requires new metrics. Start by asking, who is still being helped by something I no longer touch? That's one of the purest measures of scalable contribution. If your ebook continues to get downloads, if your course keeps enrolling students, if your framework keeps getting shared, those are signs of passive impact at work. The reach continues, even when your effort has paused. But numbers alone can be misleading. A video with 1,000 views might do less good than a conversation that sparks one leader to change their entire team's approach. Don't confuse volume with value. The real metric is depth, not just width. Are people being changed, not just entertained or informed, but transformed? There's also the relational ripple. Who is using what you created to serve someone else? That's second-order impact. Maybe you mentored someone who now mentors others. Maybe your nonprofit process is being used in other communities. That's scale through influence, not just output, and it's often invisible unless you look for it. To track this kind of impact, you need to invite stories, not just stats. Ask for testimonials. Open the door for feedback. Pay attention to unsolicited messages, those surprise notes from someone who stumbled on your work and found clarity or courage. Those are data points too. In fact, they might be the most honest ones. Another metric to consider is endurance. How long does your work last? Are people still referring to your content 6 months later? A year? 5 years? Impact that endures is more valuable than impact that trends. The shelf life of your work reveals the thoughtfulness behind it. Shallow work fades fast. Deep work lives on. You can also look at replication. Has your method been adopted by others? Are your frameworks being taught or adapted elsewhere? That's a signal you've created something not only useful, but transferable. Transferability is a hallmark of scalable work. All of this requires a mindset shift. Instead of measuring what you did this week, ask what's still working from what you built last year. That's the tree growing. That's the furnace still burning. That's your effort echoing forward. Create your own dashboard. Not just analytics, but anecdotes. Not just clicks, but conversations. Keep a folder, digital or physical, where you store notes, stories, screenshots, messages. Let it remind you that the work is working, even when you don't see it every day. And remember, some of your greatest impact may never be known to you. That's the quiet nature of scalable service. It spreads beyond your awareness. It lives in rooms you've never entered. That's not a loss, it's a legacy. You don't need to measure everything. But you do need to measure what matters. Because when you see how far your reach truly extends, it fuels the discipline to keep planting trees, not because they grow fast, but because they grow strong. Passive impact requires new metrics: depth, endurance, transferability, and ripple effect. Stories often reveal impact more honestly than statistics. Measuring what lasts helps reinforce what matters. What current effort of yours is likely to still be making a difference a year from now? Start an impact folder today. Collect stories, messages, or results that reflect how your work has served others beyond your immediate effort. Chapter 10: Effort versus Architecture. Imagine two people in a forest. One chops wood all day, muscles aching, sweat dripping. The other builds a furnace, brick by brick, slow and deliberate. At the end of the day, the first has a pile of logs. The second has heat. That's the difference between effort and architecture. Effort isn't the enemy. In fact, effort often starts the journey. It's where we learn, test, and prove our ideas. But effort alone is not scalable. If your contribution depends on your constant doing, it dies when you pause. Architecture is different. It's the deliberate act of building something that works, reliably, repeatedly, and without your hands always on it. In the early days of your career or project, effort feels noble. You're showing up, doing the work, proving your value. But over time, if you never shift to architecture, you become the bottleneck, the ceiling on your own growth. The fire only burns if you keep chopping wood. Architecture asks different questions. Not how hard am I working? But what am I building that works without me? Not how much can I carry? But what can I construct that carries others? It's a long-term lens, a strategic frame, a legacy mindset. I once worked with a nonprofit founder who was deeply passionate about her cause. She was in the trenches daily, meeting with clients, managing volunteers, and planning events. She was effective, but exhausted. Together we mapped out her key processes and built an operations manual. We created training videos, delegated decision-making, automated communication. Within a year, she was no longer in every room, and the work was thriving. She had moved from effort to architecture. This shift doesn't happen by accident. It requires stepping back from the daily rush long enough to see the patterns. What are you repeating? What decisions do others constantly rely on you to make? What knowledge is trapped in your head that could be documented, delegated, or digitized? Architecture isn't flashy. It's slow, thoughtful, and often invisible. But it creates structures that last. Think of the difference between answering emails and building a knowledge base, between coaching one person and designing a curriculum, between solving a problem once and creating a framework that others can use forever. There's a humility in this work. Effort says, I'll do it. Architecture says, let me build something so others can. It's less about being the hero and more about being the guide, less about presence and more about permanence. The temptation is to keep doing what's familiar. Effort gives instant feedback. It feels productive, but architecture demands delayed gratification. You spend hours creating a system that may not pay off for weeks, but when it does, it pays off again and again, without more effort. Start small. Choose one area of your work that consumes your time. Build a system for it. Create a checklist. Film a walkthrough. Write a script. Then give it away, to a team member, to a tool, to time itself. That's the first brick in your furnace. You don't need to abandon effort, but you must elevate it. Channel your energy into design. into decisions that multiply, into work that lasts. Because the world doesn't just need more doers. It needs more builders. Effort may get results today, but architecture builds systems that scale tomorrow. Moving from doing to designing creates freedom, longevity, and impact. Architecture starts with noticing patterns and documenting repeatable processes. Where in your life are you chopping wood that could be replaced by building a furnace? Identify one task you repeatedly do and document the exact steps. Then create a repeatable system that someone else could follow. Chapter 11. Your Scalable Legacy. Legacy isn't what you leave behind when you die. It's what continues living while you're still here. It's the systems that keep running, the people you've empowered, the ideas that keep echoing. True legacy is not a moment, it's a movement you've set in motion. Most people think of legacy as something distant, something to worry about later. But the truth is, you're building it now, every day, with every decision, whether you realize it or not. The question isn't if you'll leave a legacy. The question is what kind you'll leave, and whether it will need you to keep it alive. A scalable legacy is different. It doesn't depend on your presence. It doesn't rise or fall with your energy levels or your availability. It stands on its own. It grows in rooms you've never entered. It helps people you'll never meet. Because you designed it to outlive your direct involvement. To build that kind of legacy, you have to think like a steward, not just a starter. A starter asks, how can I launch this? A steward asks, how can I ensure this keeps working without me? It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. It forces you to design with structure, clarity, and transferability in mind. Start with your values. What do you want to last? Is it your message? Your method? Your mission? Get clear on the core essence of your contribution. Then ask, how can I embed this into something tangible, something people can carry forward without constant instruction? I once met an educator who had taught in underserved communities for decades. She realized her teaching style was effective not because of charisma, but because of how she structured learning. She spent 6 months documenting her method, training other teachers, and building a toolkit. Now, even in retirement, her work continues in classrooms across the country. Her presence faded. Her legacy scaled. That's the power of designing for transmission. If your ideas require your personality to work, they won't last. But if your ideas are clear, simple, and useful, they can be passed down and multiplied. Legacy becomes possible when ego steps aside and structure steps in. People often ask, what if no one carries it forward? But here's the truth, if you design it well, they will. Maybe not immediately, maybe not loudly, but if what you've created solves a real problem and reflects real care, it will find its way. The work will whisper where you once spoke. A scalable legacy also requires trust. You have to trust others with your work. You have to let go of perfection. Let go of control. Let go of needing to be the face of everything you started. Legacy isn't about recognition, it's about resonance. Don't wait for retirement to think about legacy. Don't wait for a title or a platform. Start now. Every system you build, every person you mentor, every resource you share, it all adds up. Your legacy is not a statue. It's a living structure, powered by design and sustained by others. You don't need to be famous to be remembered. You need to be intentional. And when you build something that serves long after you've left the room, you've done something rare. You've turned effort into architecture, presence into permanence, work into a witness. A scalable legacy is one that continues without your constant presence. Design your contribution with clarity, simplicity, and transferability. Legacy isn't about recognition, it's about building something that lasts and serves. What part of your current work deserves to live beyond you, and what will it take to make that possible? Create a legacy map, write down one idea, process, or system you want to outlive your direct involvement, and outline the steps to make it transferable. Chapter 12. From Idea to Echo. Every legacy begins as a whisper, a quiet idea, a passing thought, a scribble in a notebook. At first, it's just yours, fragile, private. But when nurtured and shaped with intention, that idea can become something bigger, an echo that travels farther than you ever could on your own. This book began with a simple shift, from effort to architecture, from doing to designing, from showing up to setting systems in motion. But an idea, no matter how profound, doesn't become an echo until you act. Passive impact isn't passive in its creation, it's only passive in its distribution. The work still requires craftsmanship, still asks for courage, still demands design. You've seen how scalable impact is built, not through relentless hustle, but through clarity, systems, and service. You've learned that digital products can multiply your message, that tree work outlasts tomato work, that mentorship ripples when it's documented, that frameworks, automation, and rest aren't luxuries, they're the tools of legacy. But knowing is only half the transformation, the rest is doing. Not frantic doing, but focused doing, the kind of action that plants something deeper than results, something with roots, something that echoes. So here's where the journey turns practical again. Go back to your idea, the one you keep returning to, the method you've honed, the insight people always ask you about, the process you've mastered but never formalized. That's the seed. You don't need more ideas, you need to let one grow. Take one problem you've already solved and ask, how can I solve this at scale? Could it become a course? A guide? A framework? A mentorship model? A tool? The format doesn't matter as much as the intention. It just needs to be something that keeps serving long after you've stepped away. And you don't have to do it all at once. Just start. Document the steps. Sketch the framework. Record the insight. Build the landing page. Share the resource. Plant the seed. Then water it with consistency and trust. Yes, there will be resistance. You'll hear the inner voice that says it's not ready, not polished, not perfect. But remember, scalable work is forged in motion, not theory. You refine by doing. You sharpen by sharing. You grow by letting the work breathe outside your head. Your job isn't to control the echo. Your job is to create something worth echoing, something true, something useful, something generous. When you do that, the work finds its way. Maybe slowly, maybe quietly, but it finds its way. And here's the secret. You may never fully know the reach of what you've built. Someone may read your guide at 2 a.m. and change careers. Someone may apply your framework in a country you'll never visit. Someone may pass on your lesson to a person who passes it on again. That's the miracle of passive impact. You create once, and the work keeps walking. So plant the tree, build the furnace, write the guide, share the system, mentor with structure, rest with purpose, and trust the echo. Because your greatest work might not be the task you finish today. It might be the thing you build today that still serves 5, 10, or 20 years from now. Work once, serve forever. That's not just a strategy, it's a legacy. Ideas only become echoes when paired with focused, intentional action. You don't need more ideas, just one seed built well enough to scale. Passive impact continues when you release the work to serve beyond you. What is the one idea, solution, or process you're ready to turn into something that echoes? Choose your first scalable asset. Set a 7-day deadline to take one irreversible step: build, publish, record, or launch. Take care and be well.